but gosh, that was just a wonderful, wonderful experience, man. And I do think it was, and I won't say volume, it was a Valium.
Yeah, well, I thought earlier you were talking about a volume game. Like that game, the statement they made was a loud statement.
It was.
Of all the distractions, all of the offseason shenanigans with hold-ins and holdouts and the terrible thing that happened to Ricky Pearsall and all the rest of it, CMC and Achilles Gate, and you finally get to the kick. Is this stuff going to detract from? Oh, never mind. No, it's not. This team is awesome on offense. They're ferocious on defense. Their second-year kicker went 6 for 6, and you've got maybe the best coach in football. So what more do you want out of a Niner team? That was a complete butt-kicking.
Trent Williams on exactly what you're talking about, shrugging off the odd offseason.
We got great leaders in this locker room, and we got people who follow the leaders. And, you know, we got leaders that echo what the coaches are preaching. And so I think that's the reason our locker room is able to stay focused.
You want to hear Nick Bosa answer the same question?
I think I'd like that.
Our ownership really takes care of us, and you have to when you have really good players, and we have really good players at every position. And when guys aren't there, I mean, we have their back. We know that when they get back, they're going to work their butts off. So it doesn't change. When they're not here, we're working, and when they come, we're working. So
I tell you what, I think that the way he started that comment, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Just think about it now.
The ownership really takes care of us.
Oh, Jed York. Think of where the York name was 8 years ago.
Man, laughingstock.
Think of how you Niner fans felt about that name. It's complicated, right? Denise and Eddie, it's complicated.
Dr. John, Denise's husband.
How we got here, but think about how you felt about John and Jed 8 or 9 years ago. And now here
Not
is...
good, Bob.
No, thank you. Not great. And then here's Nick. Just listen again to the start of this comment.
Our ownership really takes care of us, and you have to when you have really good players, and we have really good players at every position. And when guys aren't there, I mean, we have their back. We know that when they get back, they're going to work their butts off. So it doesn't change. When they're not here, we're working, and when they come, we're working. So
okay.
There you go.
Our ownership takes care of us.
Really good care of us.
And you have to when you have really good players, and we have really good players.
And I think the message that is sent from the Christian restructure, the Trent, here, have some more, the Debo restructure, and the Brandon Ayuk contract is exactly what he's saying. It took a while, but eventually the ownership took care of the people that they need to take care of. And like Nick was just saying, when they're in, they'll come in and work, and while they're not here, we're working hard, and while they're not here, and then when everyone gets here, we're all working hard, and that's just the way it goes, the culture of it, you know?
888-957-9570, you're absolutely right. Like, so if there's any thought in, is there any lingering hard feelings? No. Maybe for fans.
Yeah, and fans will get over it, and It's easy to get over Trent missed 2 snaps because he had to go get an IV. Wow. Yeah, he needs to come in shape. The guy played 98%, 97% of snaps.
And allowed how many pressures again, Dibs?
I would probably say 0. I don't think that Brock was touched. I'm looking at, let me look at QB hits, because I know that Nick had 2 QB hits on the day. They had 4 QB hits.
On Brock?
Yes.
4
hits. That's it. They did have 3 sacks, but...
Normally you show up for treatment the day after a game. I wonder if Brock just stayed home.
Yeah, I wonder if he even showered after the game. I'm good. Let's get right in the car. That's a little gross.
You're right into those sheets.
Yeah.
just wiggle in there, go to bed. Ace and Marin. Hi, Ace. Thanks for calling. What's good?
Fellas, how you doing?
So good.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. We've kind of already been through this, but I think it bears repeating. And I recognize that controversy is the lifeblood of sports talk radio. But there was a lot of trash talking of Brock Purdy in the last several weeks, several months, even on 95.7 The Game. And to my mind, he had an unbelievably fantastic statistical season. And I thought he was being disrespected. And he came out last night and he took care of his business. So Dibs, he was better than fine. He was very good.
I mean, he was probably better than fine, but he was whatever. I'm not going to parse words. Very good.
Just don't use the word fine.
Game.
Don't worry. It's not okay. I'm with Ace. I'm not okay with the word fine. Thank you, Ace.
Ace, he was fine. He played fine. He played good football, and they won. That's all you can do.
Come on, man. It's his first career game without Christian McCaffrey. You got to give him something now.
And he had Jordan Mason running through Volkswagen-sized holes. Not to take anything away from Jordan Mason, but game was called by a maestro. That thing was schemed up brilliantly. Everything they ran, for the most part, worked. And so and I won't say just had to make the throw because I can't imagine how hard that is, but he was given a lot of time, a lot of movement, a lot of space to do what he did. He was wonderful.
There you
amazing,
go.
Mark.
There you go.
20 of 29 for 2 1/4.
There you go.
Best I've ever seen.
There you go.
Fine.
And a dot to Brandon Ayuk that he dropped.
Probably thrown too hard.
For a touch. It's a really pretty throw.
It was unbelievable.
We'll play for you in a little bit.
Two-handed right where it had to be. Plop!
I mean, I don't know how many of you watch or have heard the Manning cast, but Peyton Manning lost his cookies when Brandon Ayuk dropped that ball. Brock was tremendous. And all I would say is if you want to do that to Brock today, if you want to do I'm
not doing anything to Brock.
No, not you. Anyone.
Okay.
Anyone. If you want to do the scheme, holes, time, if you want to do that, then I will simply argue you will do that after every game for the rest of his life. Because I have ears too, and I have heard for 2.5 years now what would happen if he ever had to play without Christian. And then he did, and the Niners scored over 30 on opening night with 8 consecutive scoring drives. And if we then take that and go, well, Kyle and Holes and if we do that, you're simply never, and that's fine. I don't care what you think of the guy.
No, that's not true. Every game is different. Every game is individual. And when he leads the team back in a 6-minute drill against Green Bay, that is where I start to give him major kudos because that was a jailbreak kind of drive and he needed a touchdown and he got it. So that's where you don't just default to scheme, holes, Kyle, laminated play sheet. I do think last night was more about the scheme and the offensive line dominance than it was Jordan Mason and or Brock Purdy.
I'm not even talking about what the game was about. I'm talking about spotlighting Brock Purdy and the fact that last night offered another opportunity for people to look at him and say, well, now here's something you haven't done before. Remember, we used to do this every week. Well, you haven't gone on the road.
Exactly.
And now you haven't done it in the playoffs. And now you haven't done it from behind. And now you haven't. Well, okay, what was left at this point? Well, do it without Christian. There you go.
Yeah, wonderful.
There you go. Back to you. Like, what do you got now? What's left? And I'm not talking about you, you.
I just don't think he has that much to prove, quote unquote.
But a lot of people do.
Yeah, and
a lot of people do. You got to give me that. A lot of people do.
For sure. And that's probably a sentiment that will never go away because some people just want to live in Haterville.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be a hater because he won the football game and they're 1-0. And that's all you can ask him to do is win football games, which is seemingly all he's ever done as a starter in the NFL. But I'm not going to sit here and fall over myself with praise
that's okay.
for a guy who's sitting 16th in the league in quarterback rating.
I mean, look, you know what?
16th?
You know what I would say about your breakdown of Brock Purdy's night?
It was fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Let's
go to Jonathan in the city. Hi, Jonathan. What's cooking?
Not much. I've been listening all game long, and I heard a number of people call in and say, you got to send video to the league office because Nick Bosa is being held again. And I'm going to go in a different direction. Nick, you're going to have to learn the art of how not to get held. Come on, man. You actually stick them on your jersey before games? Because it drives me crazy, man. A premier pass rusher is letting dudes put a leash on him like he's somebody's pet. I mean, dude, you got to have to learn the swipe technique. Don't let him hold you, bro. Be slick. Because if the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, you need to get to the quarterback on the regular.
Yeah, Jonathan, with all love and respect, I could not disagree with your take any firmer than I do. I'd love for you to explain to another human being how you can set up a foot or less from a 330-pound human being and say, don't get held. Like, how the hell is that possible?
The swipe technique, obviously.
Yes, the punch and the chop also, Lucas. I'm glad you jumped in with that.
I love that we're now telling Nick Bosa how to learn pass rushing technique because he clearly doesn't know what to do.
Well, maybe a little bit more hand fighting and a little less slow dancing.
Nick was good last night. I already said it. Stop.
No.
You got it.
Sorry,
by the way, Cheryl was in the building last night. You got to stop.
Oh, yikes.
Hi, Cheryl. You have to stop assessing Nick solely on sacks.
Yeah, I am with you.
Let's
I've been
look at
saying
his
that for a long
pressures.
time.
Look at the way he's affecting a football game.
That's a sackaroonie, baby.
Yeah, or not. Or a pressure Rooney. I want some pressure Roonies. He was good last night. The pass rush was good, and it starts with Nick Bosa.
Yeah, the pressure Rooney is what led to the only sack, a Rooney of the game, and that was Leonard Floyd. That was a Bosa pressure, and Rodgers shuttled out to the right, and Floyd came in and cleaned it up. Those two probably would have met at the quarterback had Rodgers not rolled to the right, but that was a total pressure Rooney from Bosa. So I'm with you. It's not just looking at the sack numbers. The team had one sack last night.
One sack, and but so what?
But didn't it feel like that they were haranguing him constantly?
It did. The reason they only won sack is because you have a future Hall of Fame quarterback that knew I'm going to throw the ball on a 3-step drop. Most of them are going to be incomplete. Some of them will bounce off of Breece Hall's hands.
Oh boy, that's awkward.
Some of them will bounce off of Diamador Lenore's arms. Like Aaron Rodgers was totally disrupted the whole night. So you get one sack. Who cares?
Exactly.
You did your job.
He had one drive where he just went down the field on you, and it was a ton of Garrett Wilson. And what did the Niners do? They adjusted because they were playing pretty soft in the zone on that drive. And Wilson on my fantasy team, Dibberclaws 1-0. Shout him out.
Good for you.
He was boop, boop, boop. But other than that, the defense adjusted, and Rodgers had nothing the rest of the way.
I mean, the only thing he had, obviously, was the broken play, the touchdown to Lazard, where you had, and I can't remember who was the pass rusher who jumped off sides.
It was Floyd.
It was Floyd. Floyd jumps off sides, and I really think some of the defenders kind of stopped. Like it looked like they were going to blow the play dead, and so Lazard runs right by everybody, and Aaron still has incredible arm talent. That was an absolute dot.
Yep.
That throw was so quick. And so, sure, that's the one play. But, yeah, there were no drives. You weren't going on a drive on this team after that.
Grandy actually last night in overtime with Sterling and Kyle Madsen advocating violence on that play.
Really?
Saying when Floyd jumps offside, just keep going and light up the quarterback.
Yeah, my least favorite thing is when the player jumps offside, the ball then gets snapped when he's offside, and he's just like, oh, well, I already messed up. No, still go and try to tackle him. Like, the penalty already happened. The only thing you're doing by not going after him is giving him a better chance of actually going downfield and hurting you even more.
I hear you, but don't you think they're a little flat-footed at that point? Like you're backing up, and then the ball gets snapped.
He was like 4 yards offside. He was not getting back. Just keep running.
But he did. Then he went backwards. You try to get back, and then it's too late. And now your balance
I'm just telling him,
total.
don't try to get back.
I hear you, but
Take the 5 yards. Don't give up the 35.
That ball was gone in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like not gone in 60 seconds. It was gone in 2 seconds.
Another quarterback, though, a younger quarterback, you may be able to get back on sides, though. Not with Rodgers. He'll get you every time.
Yeah, he's good at that.
You guys didn't watch the Monday Night Football broadcast because you guys were there.
Correct.
But they immediately brought out the statistic. Joe Buck and his producer, shout out to Statistician or whatever, immediately said, oh, and that's Rodgers' 18th career free play touchdown pass, the most in NFL history.
That's interesting. He does do well with that.
He is the best at that, no doubt.
He does, yeah, he does. He will throw it to the end zone every single time. Yeah. He's very, very aware. He's smart. He's a great player. I think he's going to the Hall of Fame.
I like his chances.
One of these days.
Like his chances. But that just underscores what the Niners did so well defensively throughout the night is, whether they played in the base defense, which is where Flanagan Fowles lives as a third linebacker. He played about a fourth of the snaps, or you stay in the nickel defense with the 5 guys in the secondary, which they did 3/4 of the time. Didn't matter which package you had. They still couldn't really establish the run on you. And then it was just time to feast in the pass game.
Totally, yeah. I mean, again, we don't know exactly who the Jets are, but when I look at their personnel and what they're supposed to be, how can you not come out of last night feeling really optimistic? okay? This is one of the top running backs in the game. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yes, not as mobile as he used to be. They have one of the best wide receivers in the game. They have a revamped offensive line. They got dudes on the defense, and they've got a defensive head coach who we all know and respect. They brought all of that to their opener on Monday night and got totally and completely outclassed by a team that supposedly didn't have its best player.
Yeah, dominated.
Dude, if you woke up today going, well, that's a you thing. That's a you thing. Sure, we can find stuff. I didn't like the 17th play in the third quarter. Okay, that was awesome. That was awesome.
It was thorough.
Last night.
It was thorough. I mean, Rodgers leads them on the one drive to go up 7-3, and that's it. End of Aaron Rodgers' night as a productive quarterback.
Right.
And if you take away the 36-yard free play to Lazard, he threw for $130
Yep.
in totality. And I know he sat for half of the fourth quarter, but he threw for 130 yards other than the free play TD to Lazard. That is total dominance of one of the all-time greats.
Complete, absolutely. Dustin in Martinez is next up. Hi, Dustin. Thank you for calling.
Hello. I'm a first-time caller, and I just have 3 quick points. I believe that everyone played extremely well for the Niners. I think Purdy played like a B+ to an A- game. There were 2 plays I really did not like with Purdy, though. Play 1 was the Silver play with like 3 minutes left in the third quarter on a 3rd and 2. He throws it, hits the safety Adams, which the Adams might actually catches it and takes it to a pick 6. If we're saying that Ayuk should have catch it because it hits him in the hands, we have to say it the same way around.
Oh, Dustin, what were you? What? What?
The throw to Salbert into double coverage.
That was there was not a drop. That was no chance.
No,
that
by
was
the safety, he's saying.
No, I know, but Dustin, if you're comparing that to Ayuk, the ball hit Ayuk in the chest. That throw to Salbert.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
He reached out as a diving catch.
Come on, man. You need some game tape, Dustin. No, it didn't. He dove, but the ball is tucked right into his belly. It is an absolute cradle catch. A $30 million receiver needs to make that. You're comparing that to a ball down the right seam that was out of reach for all 3 players. Was it a dicey throw? Slightly. But to say that was a drop by a defender, Dustin, you're misassessing that play, in my opinion.
In PFF or any of the experts, they will call that as a drop, as an interception.
No chance.
But
no chance.
The other play that I really, really didn't like, which was probably the worst play that I saw from Purdy, was he took a sack on a rollout with 5 minutes, 6 seconds. It was a 3rd and 2. He rolls out to the left. He then, instead of throwing it away, he drops on the ground. Again, I have Purdy on my fantasy football, so I'm rooting for him. But to take a sack instead of throwing out of bounds, he did the same thing in the preseason where he ran out of bounds instead of throwing it.
Yeah.
So that's really bad.
This will shock you, Dustin. I'm going to wildly disagree with you again. Thanks for calling, because Purdy at that point knows he's in field goal range, and he is under duress between 3 defenders. And let me think, has Purdy ever experienced a time where he cocked his arm to throw, got hit by a defender, and something bad happened? I wonder if we can think of a time. So what do you do in that situation? Dude, get down.
Clock runs.
Get down, keep the clock moving, and line up Jake Moody for his 800th field goal.
Yep.
Absolutely no harm, no foul. I'm sorry your fantasy team had to lose a half a point on the play. Absolutely nothing wrong on that. To me, that's field presence. That's something that Brock does really well. He understands the situation of the play. Take the safe thing. Your team doesn't lose anything for him falling down. Don't take a hit. Why would you take a hit? I don't agree with those assessments of Brock Purdy at all.
Well, you take the sack because then the clock runs. So you get sacked with 5:06 to go, and by the time Moody kicks the field goal, it's 4:24. So you eat another 40 seconds off the clock, and now you go up 19, and now it really is over. If it wasn't over before at 29-13, you missed the field goal, quick TD, onside kick, they score again, we got overtime. Okay, that's a long shot with 4.5 minutes to go, but you settle for the 3, you make the 3, and it's officially night-night at 32-13.
Dude, don't take a hit if you don't. Like, this is an NFL
Well, don't
rule.
throw it away because then the clock stops.
Yes, both of those things. Both of them. Do not cock your arm and let Kinlaw or Williams or somebody come take your arm off.
Yeah.
Just fall down, take your 3 points, take another 30 seconds off the clock and move on with your day. I mean, again, if we're nitpicking that stuff, even if you see it differently than you and I do, like, if that's your biggest problem with Brock Purdy last night, I'm sorry, you don't have a problem.
I think your biggest problem could be the fact that they had to settle for 3 and not get touchdowns. And, down the road against good teams, you're going to need, against Mahomes, you're going to need touchdowns and not field goals. Well, last year in the Super Bowl, you made it into overtime with a lot of field goals. And so I don't necessarily think that's true. But in the moment, I look at a game where you score 8 consecutive possessions, and I'm not so worried about field goals versus touchdowns.
Well, especially when a touchdown pass was also dropped.
Yep.
You had another one called back. I know they ended up scoring on that drive anyway. You also had a 4th and 1 inside the 5 where under other circumstances, likely scenario is you go for it. Likely scenario is you get it. Likely scenario is you got a good chance to punch that in. These aren't excuses. These are game flow decisions. And by the way, didn't we give every other NFL team in the league a little bit of leeway for its week 1, and you're all trying to find your flow? And the Niners found it faster than almost any other team in the league, or they were at least right up there with all of the other teams in the league.